how to be focusing in on one thing first and then the next thing first. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, let me just tell you a story. Years ago, I had an opportunity within business to have some impact and have some real potential for income. But I had a lot going on in my life. I had a number of different distractions, responsibilities, but I recognized this one opportunity and I thought, I've really got to take this seriously. I was talking to my father at the time, who was my business partner for the majority of my life until he passed away. And I said, I think we have the chance to make annual income with this one opportunity in a pretty short amount of time. So in other words, what we might expect to make in 1 year, we might be able to make in a much shorter amount of time if I were to focus in on this one thing. So what I had to do at that moment, and it was something that left an indelible impression on me that I'm sharing with you here, I pushed out the distractions. I did so much major focus and energy, and I took action on the things that I knew were going to have the biggest impact within this particular opportunity, which was a moment in time. I recognized it, and so I just went all out in this one thing that I was doing. Now, there were different steps within that, so I had to go and focus on the first thing first, and then the next thing first, and then the next thing first. Now, what do I mean by that? Why don't I just say, do this first, then that second, then that third? Well, essentially, it's the same thing. However, in my mind, I was pushing out everything. There was one thing that I needed to do, and I couldn't go to the next thing to do something until I had that first thing absolutely done. Then when I took the next step, that was my first thing to do. When I was waking up in the morning, I knew I had to do this thing first. This was absolutely paramount for me to be able to potentially fulfill the words I shared with my father. And that was, I think we have the chance to make an annual income right now if we just did this one thing in a much shorter amount of time. And that's what I did. I focused all my energy on that. I allowed myself emotionally not to do the things that in my mind I always felt I had to be doing. Can you relate with that? Are there a bunch of different distractions that you've got that you know you've got to be doing? And oftentimes those are the things that you're doing and you think, I can't get to that other important stuff because I got all this other stuff to do. So I gave myself permission to push those actions, those at that moment time wasters, out of my agenda, and I focused on this one thing. So the result was I was right. We did make an annual income in a shorter amount of time when I just focused in on this one business activity. Now, this video isn't about what was that activity, because that opportunity was then. You've got opportunities in front of you right now. But if you just gave yourself the blinders and said, I am going to do one thing first, and then I'm going to do the next thing first. One thing, not I've got these three things to do, because then that keeps that scramble of distractions, attention, and should-be doings in our mind. When I pushed all that out and I just did the actions that I knew I needed to do, knowing that I would be able to do the next actions once I was done, and then I took those actions, the results started to come. That was the big takeaway for me. Now, I'm not promising you success here, but what I am trying to do is give you a framework for how to tackle the most important things that you want to accomplish in your life. In this case, we're talking about real estate investing. You know exactly what is the thing that you should be doing first. Push out the distractions. Don't be thinking, oh, and I've just got all this stuff I've got to do. Where am I ever going to start? With the first thing. The first thing that you got to do, that is what you attack. That's what this video is all about. Do one thing first, then do the next thing first, until you have got all of the motivation, momentum, traction that you've been hoping for because you pushed out those distractions. Now, this was a big game changer for me, and I'm hoping that it can help you as well. So when you start to be overwhelmed with all of the things that you've got to do, because the timing is never perfect in life for anybody. We've all got distractions, responsibilities. We've got things that are taking up our time. And yet in our core, there are things that we want to accomplish in our life. It's big. You only go around once. So I'm asking you right now to consider doing one thing first and do that until you're done, and then do the next thing first, pushing out everything. This is first. This is number one. This is not number two, number three, number four on a pecking order. I mean, technically you could say that, but as far as the time that you're carving out, you've got something that's at the top. That's what you want to do first. When you've done that, something else is going to go to the top. That's what you're going to be doing first until you're starting to realize I'm pushing out the things that aren't getting me where I want to go. I am bringing in my focus, my attention, my action on the one thing that I know is going to get me where I need to be going, the momentum, the direction. And then we just take those steps, one thing after the other that we're doing that goes to the top so that we can make massive impact on the things that mean the most to us. So I hope that helps. I'll share more with you in the next video.